I'm here today with Steve Sadler, TSA's Technology Strategist, to get the latest update on the TSA's Technical Advisory Group, including the analog to digital switchover. Steve, we chatted last time regarding digital migration. It was about 4 months ago. Can you give me a quick update on the key events on the technology front, please?
Sure, so hi Alan. Yeah, of course. You will recall that we reignited the TSA Technical Advisory Group some months ago. And we've had a few meetings of that group since we last chatted. And I should just remind people that that's open to TSA members, technology providers or service providers, anyone interested in that whole issue of the technical systems that sit beneath technology-enabled care. We do also have attendees, invited attendees, expert matter subjects as we need them. So do drop a line to Paul Finch or myself at TSA if you're interested in being involved.
And what are the hot topics within the Technical Advisory Group?
Well, I guess the whole issue around digital migration of telecommunications is dominated discussions, particularly how that affects technology-enabled care and alarm systems. I guess that's because in recent months we've seen consultations announced from both BT, Openreach and Ofcom, both of which relate to the end of traditional phone line services. We also have work running on mobile and cellular connected devices within the networks. A working group that's working on the fall detect operational issues, and our standing items relating to technology and service standards.
Great. And Steve, I want to come back to you on some of the other topics, but perhaps you should expand on the telecommunications story. It sounds like we have significant changes coming up.
Yeah, so let's dig a little deeper into those consultations we mentioned, starting with BT Openreach. Firstly, a reminder that Openreach is effectively a wholesaler. They sell wholesale line rentals of phone lines to other communication providers, and we access those resellers to get our own voice communications. And Openreach has announced that they will be ending the supply in 2025 of those wholesale phone lines. In fact, there'll be no new sales apparently from 2023. So we're less than 5 years away from that happening. Perhaps the best way to think of this is that BT, Openreach and other wholesalers effectively become providers of the infrastructure, the data pipes in that new digital world that supply the telecommunications industry. And it will be for other organisations to provide access to voice and data services that sit on top of those data pipes. So in the future we'll access our phone line services effectively as voice over IP from those other retailers. And I assume BT's own retail arm will be part of those service provisions. So this reinforces our previous messaging that means we need to re-examine whether there's any impact on alarm services as those changes take place.
Great. And you also mentioned Ofcom's role in this.
Yes, so this has coincided with a slightly different consultation from Ofcom. Their interest is primarily in the protection of access to emergency organisations when there's a power cut at a consumer's premises. So we need to remember here, when we move to those new digital or IP networks, the external network connects into the home via what looks like a router, much as we see today with routers and Wi-Fi access. The big difference though is that will not come with a backup analog phone line. Everything's going to be digital. So one byproduct of that is that if the power fails, your router fails and you won't have access to a phone line. Now, of course, in the social alarm or telecare world, we're used to standards which say that we have to have a minimum of 24-hour battery backup to all of our services. So that instantly provides a bit of a challenge for what we do. However, Ofcom's immediate interest is they need communications providers to make sure there's still access to 999 phone calls when the power fails, particularly for people at risk. So Ofcom launched a public consultation on this topic. Many people have responded, including TSA. Part of the TSA's response was to advise that alarm systems should themselves be considered explicitly in this debate. Also that we think alarm monitoring services should themselves be considered as emergency organisations and should be consulted. But also that alarm systems should actually be considered as part of the technical solution when we get those power outages.
So maybe I don't understand your point. How can alarms be part of the solution if the phone line doesn't work when the power is lost?
Okay, yes, I guess that's not so obvious, but it's worth noting here that, for example, telecare systems are pretty smart in these situations. They monitor their continued connectivity to communications networks, also the state of their batteries, when batteries need replacing or repairing. But importantly, they also provide multiple communication connections. We've seen this, for example, in territories who have already made the digital shift, where, for example, alarm devices can switch intelligently from fixed line to cellular connections when they need to do so. And we've seen similar solutions in group living systems, but to basically provide the system availability and reliability that a single line dependency may not deliver. So actually, alarm systems themselves are very useful links to emergency services when the lights go out.
Okay, understood. So these are the main stories of the shift from analog to digital then?
Almost. There's probably a couple of other topics we should mention. Firstly, BT launched their promised test facilities at the Martlesham laboratories quite recently, June, July. And the idea there is that all the providers of equipment and systems should come along and test what they have to offer. And the idea is that both older analog equipment and new digital systems will be able to connect to a variety of alarm receiving centre types over different combinations of communications networks. And the guys at BT will even be able to help by degrading the performance of those networks to be able to stress test the systems. The main interest for TSA and the Technical Advisory Group here is we want that to be based on a common test specification, because ultimately we need the service providers and users to understand the outcomes of those testing so they can contrast and compare the results and understand that. Testing is important, but it's also only one part of the story. In that whole world of readiness for the switch to digital or internet protocol communications, there are other issues that come to bear. So one other example, this is a topic that's of great interest to the analog to digital telecare team in Scotland, is whether we're all ready in terms of cyber security. So we also have a wider working group within the Technical Advisory Group looking at a guidance on the fuller set of digital readiness issues.
Thanks, Steve. So I know that we can get some more information on these digital switch issues through the TSA website, which is really useful. So maybe we can look at some of the other hot topics. You mentioned mobile or cellular alarm connectivity. What is that about?
Well, for a start, we may of course see increased use of mobile devices themselves as protective alarm or monitoring devices, body-worn devices. But as we just mentioned, cellular connections are also emerging as diverse communications to provide reliability in that digital world. So for either reason, we're seeing greater use of cellular network connections. So we've had a working group looking at the issues that relate in terms of, for example, network connectivity, the use of SIMs, what roaming means in this context. And our Technical Advisory Group has compiled a guidance document already on this, and it's currently in review with our wider advisory group, and it should be released shortly, so watch this space.
Thanks, Steve. And you also mentioned fall detectors.
Yes, this is a different issue and relates to a concern that was raised by service providers. The context here is we may see possible false alarms that result from use of fall detectors. And the background is that we've got some very smart devices out there, but they all seem to work in different ways with different algorithms. So the criteria they use for raising alarms or cancelling alarms is different. So if your service or your software is not aligned with those different criteria, there is the concern that we could raise too many false alarms or even possibly miss some real fall events. So the idea is it's at the early stage of this one, but we're getting together a group of voluntary members from the advisory group to work up a guidance document here too, to strengthen the way fall detectors are used in an operational context.
Great. And what about the change to standards? What should we watch out for there?
So as ever, there's a variety of standards documents and initiatives that we're working on. To mention just a few, we've contributed recently to the CENELEC consultation on BS EN 50134 Part 9. Sorry for the acronyms and numbers there, but this is important. This is the one around digital IP protocol and interoperability of alarm devices. So that's quite important to our future going forward. So again, we've contributed to that debate. Within the CEN group, CEN group, we're also working on the TC 431 work, which is the service chain standard for social alarms. That's moving quite quickly now. and it's going to be relevant to all service providers. It will be adopted Europe-wide. Paul Finch represents TSA on that group, so please contact Paul if you're interested in being involved or contributing in any way. The main interest for Paul there is to make sure that the TSA quality standards framework stays aligned with that service standard as it evolves.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for the update, Steve. Can you leave us with a sneaky preview of the more innovative digital tech that's coming down the pipe?
Sure. Actually, maybe we should make more time next time to discuss the innovative solutions at some length, but maybe a couple of topics worth picking out here. Perhaps one of the key issues is as digital solutions emerge in our market, whether they be evolution of the telecare and telehealth services we have today or new solutions, a key part of this is we need to be able to help people identify those available solutions in the market and match them to the needs of individual users. So we really want the market to be smarter in creating and signposting and selecting some of those technologies. It also means that we really require a different level of interoperability so that we can combine devices and build smart and proactive solutions for end users. There's even the opportunity to provide automation of some parts of the quality standards framework and the way we deliver our services today. So we actually have research going on in those areas too, and maybe we can discuss those at some length next time we meet.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate the update today, so thank you for that. And for all those watching, please remember you can get regular updates via the TSA website. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.